Hello wonderful human beings, Sheldon Evans here, and in today's video we'll be taking our photos that we shot during the day and making them look as if they were taken at night. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So recently myself and a few friends took a trip to go and take some photos of the stars and do some astrophotography, and it got me thinking about taking photos at night and taking photos in the day. Sometimes when you're traveling you don't have time to take photos at night or get to the location at the right time, and you miss out on some great opportunities because sometimes the location that you're shooting looks a lot better at night. So I thought, why not show you how to make the best out of what you have and use the photos that you've already taken and make them look as if they were shot at night. So let's jump into the computer and get started. Alrighty guys, so let's hop into Lightroom and start editing. So the first thing you need to do is obviously import your photo into Lightroom, and you can do that in a variety of different ways. You could either right click on your photo and click on open with and select Lightroom. You could simply drag your photo into Lightroom, or you could click this import button while you have Lightroom open and then browse for your photo on your computer and import it that way. I've simply dragged it in along with some of the other photos that I was speaking about earlier of the stars that I took at Baines Cliff, some of the astrophotography, which we'll use in the tutorial later on for a little extra boost to our photo. Don't worry if you don't have your own photos, I'll show you how to get them as well. So we're going to start off with this photo of Mad Giant, a brewery that I took a photo of. As you can see, it's shot in daylight. It's very bright, you can clearly see it's daylight, and it doesn't look very good at all. Now we want to make this look as if it was shot at night, because this is a restaurant as well. So if you want to advertise to someone to come by at night and they see this and they think that it's open during the day, they might be confused. So this has a variety of different applications as well, depending on what you'd like to use this for. Maybe you just have a photo that you took and you want it to look as if it was taken at night. You can do that as well. So the first thing we're going to do is head on over to the Develop tab. So we can start doing a basic raw conversion, meaning we're going to adjust the factors in the raw image, so the exposure, contrast, highlights, and so on, to bring it down and make it look as if it was shot at night. And then we'll take it into Photoshop for that extra hint and extra boost and make it look amazing. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to make this photo darker, obviously, because nighttime moonlight is a lot dimmer, a lot darker than daylight, so that's what we have to do. So we're going to click on our exposure slider and bring this down quite a bit. But you'll see what happens when we do this. Obviously we get our detail back in the highlights, we lose some of the detail in the shadow. So to bring that back, we're going to use our shadow slider and we're going to bring that up slightly to bring back some of the detail in the shadows. Now already this is looking better. It looks darker, it's more aesthetically pleasing to the eye, and it already looks like it's getting into nighttime. So we want more detail back in our highlights because obviously at night the sky is a lot darker than during the daylight, so it's a lot easier to see it. If I were to look at the sun now, if I look out the window, the sky is very bright and it sort of hurts your eyes, but at night the sky is very, very dark. So we need to bring that detail back. So we're going to use our highlight slider, drag that down, and you'll see that the sky goes darker and we get some of that detail back. Now it already looks very dark, but there's one thing that's throwing us off completely, and that is the warmth of the photo. Daylight is very warm, it's bright yellow light. At night, the light is a lot cooler and you have this cold feeling. So that's what we need to add to our photo. And to do that, we're going to use the temperature slider. So click on your temperature slider and drag it down towards the cooler section of the slider. Now, as you can see, it gets a lot bluer and it's giving off a cooler evening vibe to it. Now we're going to go through our sliders, and you can play around with this depending on which photo you have, obviously, and how it was exposed originally. Maybe your photo was originally underexposed slightly and it might make it a little bit easier, and you don't have to play with these sliders that much. But now we need to adjust some of the colors. So we're going to scroll all the way down here to HSL, Hue, Saturation, and Luminance. And we're going to adjust the luminance of our blue value slightly. Because there's blue in the sky, we can adjust the luminance and make it a little bit darker. So head on over to your blue slider and drag it down. And as you'll see, it brings back some of that darkness into the sky and looks a little bit more like nighttime. Now you could also do this with the lights in the photo. So as you can see, this Mad Giant sign here and these little lights, they're a yellow tone. So we could head on over to our orange or yellow slider and we can play with that, and we can bring back some of that detail in those lights so we can see the actual light bulbs. Now the final touch would be to scroll all the way down to the bottom to our camera calibration sliders, and we're going to bring our blue saturation slider down slightly. At night, colors are a little more desaturated compared to the daytime because of the moonlight and because of the way that our eyes see the world. So in order to convey that same mood, we're going to do that. Now, I like the way this looks. Now the next step is to take it into Photoshop to add the additional touches and really make it look amazing. So we're going to right click on our photo, click on Edit In, and click on edit in Photoshop, and that'll open it in Photoshop where we can add the additional touches. But before we move on to the next step, I just want to take a second to thank Squarespace for supporting this channel and sponsoring this week's video. Now, if you haven't heard about Squarespace yet, I have no idea where you've been because they are amazing. I built my entire website on Squarespace. I never had to touch a single line of code, and if you haven't been to it yet, you'll see that I have my photography portfolio on there. You can download presets and Photoshop actions. You can read my blog for behind the scenes from some of my photo shoots, and it only took me a couple minutes to set up. Yes, a few minutes. Everything is simply drag and drop. It's really easy to edit pages, to add additional pages, remove them. I highly recommend this service. If you'd like to try out Squarespace yourself, you can visit this link for a free trial, and you can use offer code Sheldon at checkout to get 10% off of your first order. So whether you need a domain name, a website, or an online store, make your next move with Squarespace. But more on that later, because we're going to get back to really making it look like it was shot at night. Now that we have our photo open in Photoshop, the first thing we need to do is bring back some of the light and some of the detail, and then really give an overall mood. So what happens at night? The lights turn on. So we're going to turn some of these lights on and make them a little bit brighter. To do that, we're going to create a new curves layer. Click on this adjustment layer button here, click on curves, and your curve slider will appear. Now all you have to do is bring this curve slider all the way up, quite a bit actually, so it looks almost like daytime again. Press Command or Control I on your keyboard to invert that mask, meaning that the mask will be hidden. So this is your mask. Anything that is black on this mask will be invisible. Anything that is white will be visible. So head on over to your brush tool, select a white brush, and then go around your image and paint around the little light bulbs until you manage to get all the way around the image and you've turned on some of these lights. So once you've turned on some of these lights, it's time to adjust how bright you'd like them. Now, because we're editing non-destructively, just as I speak about in my photography course, you can use your curves adjustment tool to just adjust it afterwards without editing or changing anything afterwards. So you can just adjust your curve slider as you'll see, and you can change how bright or how dim you'd like these lights. So I want quite a bit of glow around them, so I'm going to bring this all the way up here and add quite a bit of glow around these lights. Now I'm happy with the way that looks. You can turn it on and off to see what you've done. Next, we need to add some glow to the top light of the building. So we're going to create an additional curves layer. Curves, again, we're going to make it quite bright. We're going to invert our layer, Command or Control I, select a brush tool. You can make it a little bit bigger this time with the open or close brackets on your keyboard. So make it quite big, brush around that, and we have some light on the top of our building. This might be a little bit bright, so again, you can adjust it using your curves layer here, and I'm going to bring it down slightly and just make it a little bit brighter. Now that we've turned on the outside lights in the building, it's time to turn the lights on the inside of the building on as well. So to do that, again, we're going to create an additional curves layer, click on curves, and we're going to brighten up our curves layer quite a bit, and then Command I to invert. Now we need to select where we want the light to come from. So at night, obviously lights are on inside the building and they'll be shining out through the windows. So we're going to scroll into our image and move around and see where the windows are. So we can see there's two windows here, up here and down here. So we're going to select our pen tool, click on the pen tool, and we're going to mask or select around our windows. So click on the corners of the windows, as you can see here, just in the corners, and make a rough selection around your window. Then right click on that, click on Make Selection. Select your feather radius to around 3 pixels, depending on what resolution your image is. This is a regular 24 megapixel image, so that's about good enough for this, but it depends on your image and how blurry your image is in the end. But 3 pixels is about okay. Click OK. Press Command or Option and Backspace to fill your image, and you can see we've brightened up that area a little bit. Now we can adjust how bright or how dark we'd like that. So we can again use our curve slider and bring up or bring down the light. So we're going to brighten it up quite a bit, and then we're going to go around our image and do that for all of the windows. Now once you've masked all your windows, you can go back to your curves layer and adjust how bright you'd like the windows or the window light to be. So click on your curves layer, go over to the adjustment of the curve, and you can adjust how bright or how dim you'd like those windows. You can turn all the lights off and make sure they go out of business, or you can go very bright and really bring up the light indoors. Now there's one problem that we have to fix with this, and that is the color of the light. Obviously at night there's tungsten light, those lights are a lot warmer, so we need to add some color or some warmth to these lights coming out from the building. Because if it's just this white or light blue color, it doesn't really contrast much with the background to really make it feel as though it's at night. So to do that, we're going to use a photo filter to add some warmth to the windows in the photo. So to do that, we're going to click on this adjustment layer here, click on photo filter, and we're going to use the warming filter that comes with it. So we can drag this density up all the way. I like to use this LBA filter because it's quite warm, bring it all the way up, and now we've warmed up the entire image and not the light. So how do we clip it to the layer below so that we just affect the areas that we've previously masked? You can use Option Command and press G on your keyboard, and you'll see that a clipping mask is formed. Now only the sections that we masked previously are being warmed up. So if you turn this layer on and off, you'll see that it's only affecting the windows that we masked. Now the next step is to add a final touch to the sky of our photo. As we know, what happens at night is we can see the stars. Sometimes, depending on where you live. So I'm going to use some of the photos that I used earlier, and I'm going to use those stars and throw it into the sky. But if you don't have your own photos of stars, you can simply use a website called Unsplash, which is amazing for finding free stock images to use in your own photos. So if you head on over to unsplash.com, you could search for stars, and you'd get a bunch of different images of stars to use in your own photos. But I'm simply going to use the photos that I took. So all I'm going to do is head on over back to Lightroom, right click on the photo that I want to use, say Edit In, and select Adobe Photoshop 2018. Okay, so now that we have our photo in Photoshop, it's time to add it to our photo. So what we have to do is we have to press Command or Control A to select the entire image, and then press Command or Control C to copy it. Head on over to our original photo and press Command or Control V, and you'll paste your sky in the photo. Now doesn't that look amazing? No. So what we need to do is we need to rotate this and make it look as if it was really shot in the same sky. So we're going to press Command T to rotate our image, and we're going to rotate it, and we're going to place it where we'd like to. Now you can scale it depending on the size of your image as well, or how big your sky is, or how much of the photo you have. So we're going to place it just around there, press the little check mark at the top to apply our transformation, and we're done. Now we really needed to adjust just to the sky, because at the moment we're just looking at stars. So again, we're going to add an additional mask. We've been working with masks a lot today, and it's very simple actually. So we're going to select our brush tool, press D on our keyboard to reset our black and white colors here, and once you've done that, press X to rotate between the two, and now we need to create a mask. So click on your little quick mask icon here, which will create a mask layer, and then just simply brush away of the area that you don't like or you don't want it to have in the photo, so that we can merge it quite nicely. Again, you can adjust your brush tool to paint around the image and just remove around the sections where there wouldn't actually be stars, because at the moment it's all over our building. Now this looks really bad at the moment. It looks like somebody threw up on the top of the image. How do you get it so that just the stars stick out? Well, we need to change the blending mode of our photo. So click on the blending mode icon here, change it to color dodge, and that will just bring out the bright areas of the photo. Now the stars are quite bright here, so I'm going to bring them down slightly by adjusting the opacity of this layer. Bring it down to around 50%, looks good. I'm happy with the way that look. Now you can do additional adjustments if you'd like. Maybe you'd like to add a little extra contrast. You can do that by creating an extra layer, a curves layer, pumping up some of the highlights, bringing down some of the shadows, and you have some more contrast, just like that. Now one final step is we need to add a bit of a glow to the ground in front of the building, because the light is obviously coming out of the windows. So again, we're going to create a new curves layer, and we're going to bring up the brightness slightly. We're going to invert it, Command I, select our brush tool, and we're going to simply paint in front of our building. Now again, we need to add some warmth to that, or else it makes no sense and just looks like moonlight. So we're going to create a new photo filter layer again, press Option Command G to apply it just to our curves layer, increase that warmth, and we're done. And it's as simple as that to convert your day photos into your night photos. I really hope you guys like this tutorial and that it helps you in some way. Maybe you can use this in your own photos. And if you do use it in your own photos, don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I like looking at your photos and seeing what you're doing with these tutorials and the things you're creating. So don't forget to tag me. My username will be up on the screen. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. I upload videos every single week. And as always, I shall see you in the next video. Cheers.